A November breeze blows the second bye week away.
And now the Owls get ready for a Green Wave clash in the Big Easy.
And I'm Kayla Vine, live outside of Edward Golson Hall. Wins have been hard to come by for the Owls for many years now, but the bye has always been kind. I'll take a look.
And live from the studio set, I'm Jackson Batchelor. There was a shocking upset in the AAC this weekend, and now the conference standings look a bit different going into Week 11. Later in the show, I'll break it all down. Inside the Nest is live, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Inside the Nest. Alongside Sam Cavone, I'm Hayden Vandell. Guess what? It's football every Saturday from here on out. Temple is coming off of its second bye week and getting ready for a tilt against one of the best teams in the conference.
Yep, the Owls are rested, but this weekend they'll be tested.
Well
See
played.
what I did there?
Well played.
It's all conference play in November, starting in New Orleans with the Tulane Green Wave. So let's take a look at just how good the guys from the Bayou really are. The Green Wave traveled to Charlotte for a Halloween conference matchup with the 49ers this past weekend. Tulane coming into this matchup on a 5-game winning streak. With 6 minutes left in the first half, Darian Mensah gets taken down for a loss of 5 yards by Mordecai McDaniel. Tulane already put the first points on the board, but adds more as Mekhi Hughes rushes into the end zone to put the Green Wave up 10-0. Deshaun Purdy gets some momentum going for the 49ers and completes a 16-yard pass to Omega Blake. But that momentum quickly gets taken away. Purdy is picked off by Micah Robinson, who runs it in for the touchdown. The Green Wave extends their lead to 20-3. Purdy with the ball again, but cannot escape the blitz. He's sacked by Cameron Hamilton on third down for a loss of 6 yards. Mensah takes a shot at Sadie Clayton Johnson, who dives and gets the first down. Clayton Johnson rushes 5 yards into a wide open gap to put Tulane up 33-3. And that's it. Tulane leaves Jerry Richardson Stadium with a dominant 33-3 win.
For the first time this season, Darian Mensah did not throw a touchdown, and he also didn't throw an interception. The Tulane scoring came via the ground, with Mekhi Hughes getting into the end zone not once, but twice. Hughes is 5th in the nation in rushing yards with over 1,000 on the season, and is 2nd amongst AAC running backs in rushing touchdowns with 11. Defensively, Tulane put together its best effort of the season, allowing just 189 total yards and even helping out the offense with a second half pick 6. Tulane is tied for 2nd in the American with 11 interceptions this season and has now won 6 in a row. And he didn't have a big game, but Omega Blake, how can we not throw his name into the show with only just 3 catches? Now it's time for Sam and I's player to watch for the upcoming game against Tulane. For me, I'm going to look at the whole entire defense. That's right, I'm not giving you a player, I'm giving you the whole defense. Stan Drayton mentioned that he wants to see all units step up. I agree with him. I want to see the secondary, I want to see the corners, I want to see the defensive line step up as well.
Now on my side, Tulane sophomore running back Mekhi Hughes is one of the reasons for the Green Wave's success. He ranks 5th in the NCAA in rushing yards and 14th for rushing TDs. He's hit the 1K yard mark and has made the AAC honor roll for 3 consecutive weeks. Now, although we did our own research on Tulane, it's always good to get a local expert's opinion.
Sam and I spoke to Gary Smith, who has been covering Tulane as a beat reporter for NOLA.com since 2013. We start off by asking him about redshirt freshman quarterback Darian Mensah, who leads the league in completion percentage.
His first big game was against Kansas State in week 2, and he actually completely outplayed Avery Johnson, Kansas State's star newcomer quarterback, until he didn't, which was in the fourth quarter. Tulane was up. It was a tie game. He was loose with the ball, got sacked. They picked up a fumble, ran it back 75 yards for a touchdown. He drives Tulane back down the field to tie it at the end. They have 1st and goal at the 1. They get called for offensive pass interference, knocks him back, and then he throws an interception in the end zone. He kind of he kind of was good from the start, where he loves to scramble, but not to run. He scrambles to throw, and that's maybe his biggest strength, is when he feels pressure, he can get out to his right and keep his eyes downfield and hit receivers. He hasn't really been asked to do a ton in recent weeks because nobody's been able to stop Mekhi Hughes in the running game. He's been very efficient, but twice he's thrown fewer than 20 passes in their last 3 games. So he's still young. If he's ever, we still don't 100% know how he's going to react in a big game if it is put on his shoulders to win it, because that just really, since the early loss, he played great against Kansas State. He had a tough game against Oklahoma on the road the next week, but since then he hasn't been asked to do a ton because he just hasn't had to do a ton.
Now, Sam, we know what Tulane has to bring to the table. Time for us to lock in on Temple's end and hone in on what the Owls have to do to stop that oh-so-long 18-game road losing streak.
Now that the bye week has concluded, it's time for us to bring back our routes to success. Route number 1, minimize mistakes. Penalties, miscommunication, and missed assignments are all bad words and have plagued the team this season. If Temple can clean up these issues, then the Owls will be in better shape heading into Saturday's matchup.
Number 2, keep that offensive momentum going. We saw Temple score a touchdown in all 4 quarters in their loss to ECU. They're going to need the same production against Tulane. I think the only way Temple walks out of NOLA with a win is in a shootout. So yeah, take that over.
Route number 3, play all 4 quarters. Temple has a history of letting up in the 3rd quarter. We saw it in the loss to ECU. If the Owls want to walk out of their next couple of games with a win or 2, they have to play the entire way through. This means being focused and disciplined through all 60 minutes.
The final route, the defense just has to execute, communicate, overall play better. Mentioned it in our player to watch, there have been a lot of missed tackles lately, and this Tulane team can really just run it up the middle. They're going to have a lot of good tight ends that can pass block as well in space. And in the end line to open up space, the Owls will have their hands full.
Well, it looks like we finally have ourselves a real race. Based on our predictions for Temple's matchup with ECU, Hayden still leads everyone with a 7-1 record.
Not giving that up.
Jackson and I are tied at 6-2, and the optimist Kayla falls to 5-3. There is still plenty of time left in the season because, well, we never get a bye week.
That's right, we never get a bye week, and I am still going to take Tulane, TU, just the other one, to win. I'm taking them 38-11. I know Temple is coming off of that bye week, but I think what people don't recognize is Tulane also just played on Thursday, Sam, as you mentioned. So they're going to have a couple extra days of rest as well. They're just simply better on paper, too, when you look at it from a talent perspective. Even under first-year head coach John Sumrall, who has just done a great job, who came over from Troy, especially using that transfer portal.
Hayden, I have to agree. I have Tulane beating Temple 35-13. Tulane has won 15 consecutive regular season conference games. And then with the inconsistency that comes with this Temple team, especially while on the road, it's hard to see the Owls beating a team that is currently at the top of its game. Kayla, what you got?
Guys, I was very optimistic heading into the ECU game, but this week I just don't see the Owls pulling out a win over Tulane. I have a final score of Tulane 28, Temple 14. Tulane has been playing very well offensively throughout all 4 quarters, and after Temple's second half offensive struggle versus ECU, I just don't see the Owls being able to stay in arm's reach versus Tulane on Saturday. Jackson, what are your thoughts?
Guys, I'm going Tulane 40, Temple 15. Tulane is 8th in the nation in points per game currently, and the Owls, well, they're averaging 35 points allowed. As for Tulane, 17th in rushing yards per game in the nation, and the Owls allow more than 200 rushing yards per game. And for Tulane, they have the momentum. I mean, they have 6 straight wins, so I'm going 40-15. And you can catch Saturday's game live on ESPNU at 4 o'clock as the Owls will travel down to Yeoman Stadium to take on the Green Wave in the Big Easy. We will also have live updates on X from our social media platform at Owl Sports Update.
Now that we've taken a look at Tulane, we're going to give a deeper dive into Temple. When we return, Kayla Vine is back and will update us on Temple's history with the bye week. We'll also hear from Stan Drayton and Evan Simon, who spoke at Monday's press conference.
Later in the show, we'll be joined on the desk by play-by-play man Kevin Kopp, and then take a look at the most recent shakeup in the AAC. Inside the Nest will be back in 90 seconds.
Welcome back. The Owls had a lot of time to recuperate and focus on the things that they needed to fix and improve on with yet another bye week.
Inside the Nest beat reporter Kayla Levine is outside of EL to tell us about how Temple can get some extra momentum with a week of extra rest. Hey, Kayla.
Hi guys. Temple has had a lot of luck coming out of bye weeks in the past. With a win streak that dates back to 2019, Temple has the ability to keep that going, but it's going to come with an uphill climb. The last time Temple football had 2 bye weeks in one season, the outcome was in favor for the Owls. In 2019, Temple had 2 bye weeks and came away with wins both times. That season, Temple finished 8-5. Fast forward 6 years, and the Owls will try to do the same in an effort to salvage what has been a disappointing year.
Yeah, so having a bye week, it's great because you get more time to, get a jump start on your opponent, and we've done that. We have a good feel on what they're doing, what they're going to do. So we just got to go out there and execute.
Coaches and players use the week off in hopes of recovering from injuries and preparing for the upcoming conference matchup versus the Tulane Green Wave.
I think this bye week will, help us do that to some degree. We were able to just kind of reflect and really just kind of hone in on what we're good at and try to enhance that and really identify the things that we're not so good at and try to improve upon those things and get ourselves back healthy, get some guys back on the roster for us that's been down.
Temple won the game against Tulsa coming out of the bye week this season in early October. One more post-bye week win will give Temple its 3rd W in 2024, matching the win total from last season. Stan Drayton and company are hoping history repeats itself on Saturday. A few interesting notes about this weekend's matchup. This will be the 3rd straight game Temple has been a part of a homecoming weekend. Temple leads the all-time series with Tulane 5-2, and the first time these two teams met was back in 1935 in the first ever Sugar Bowl. Tulane did win that game, but that's all I have. Live outside of Edward Olson Hall, I'm Kayla Levine. Sam, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Kayla. With the bye week ending, Stan Drayton hosted his weekly Monday press conference, and this week he had company. Drayton was joined by quarterback Evan Simon, and the pair spoke about Temple's upcoming matchup as well as the current mindset of this 2-6 team, which Drayton calls positive.
I just think they were out there playing with some confidence. They've put together 2 really good weeks of practice prior to, and felt that we left a lot on the field with the game prior, and they just kind of had their minds made up, and you kind of saw it all week. We knew we were going to be without Dante in that game, and some guys stepped up their approach to the preparation, their sense of urgency. Some young guys, a lot of freshmen played for us. Kamar being one of them and making plays for us. So, no, I just think it was, confidence, and it was good to see that coming out of a lot of young players. When you look at this team as a whole, this is a young football team by way of experience and classification. You could tell that team was already, pretty lined up with some solid football players, some really good football players, and they've got a lot of toughness and resolve that shows up in their actions on the football field. They're very, very physical. They play very hard. Defensively, they pursue the ball extremely hard. Very, very tough opponent. He's just got this common force to him, and he's commanding. He's demanding. He knows the system. So, when a guy is not lined up right, there's a little bit of comfort that they know Evan's going to get him right. And there's an element of encouragement that goes on when things are not going so well, and he continues to keep them, confident in their abilities and what they're capable of doing for us, and that's just the moxie that he brings to the table. It's huge. It's priceless, to be quite honest with you. It's like having a coach out there on the field.
Yeah, so we're 2-6. Our record doesn't justify how we've played. We've played some really good teams, and we've played very well against them. It's tough knowing it's 2-6. Obviously you want it to be better, but you gotta understand where you're at and just keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward. Yeah. So in order to start fast, you got to do it in practice, and you know, I've made a big emphasis even on it today. You know, our first series against, you know, we do a good on good, and we did that today, and we started fast. So it's got to translate over to the game. They're a good football team. You know, we're going to have to bring our best, and Charlotte's no slouch, but Tulane came ready to play, and we're going to have to do the same, come ready to play.
Our record doesn't justify how we've played. Evan Simon just said it. Stan Drayton has said it. Members of the defense have said it. We've talked about it. Why do you think that Temple thinks this way? And what do you think, Hayden? What are your thoughts when we've been hearing this all season, but nothing's come about it?
I think that the reason that we're hearing the guys say it is because they are seeing and only really taking what they see in practice and kind of using that and not really focusing what happens on Saturday or whatever night of the week they happen to play. But I think that's the reason that they are singing. And they have been in some good games as well. But for Stan Drayton to give Evan Simon also some of that praise, I thought that was really just trustworthy in his quarterback.
It shows how much confidence they're putting into Evan Simon, who they didn't even start at the beginning of the season, who up until a couple weeks, they weren't even sure if Evan Simon was their starter. So it's just so interesting to see how this team dynamic is going. And you know what? We're going to see it in the next couple weeks. But it is break time once again. Stay where you are. When Inside the Nest comes back, we'll be joined by Kevin Cobb.
Kevin is the Associate Athletic Director of Temple's video production. Translated, it means that he knows Temple football better than most. We will be right back. Welcome back. He's seen every play from every game, and now we've got him in the house. We are joined by the voice of the Temple Owls, Kevin Cobb.
Kevin calls both football and men's basketball games. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here. It's a busy time with both of those sports going on, but happy to catch up with you guys.
So let's just dive right into it. 2 wins so far this season after 2 straight 3-win seasons under Drayton. Is this program moving forward? Because the wins just aren't showing it.
No, but you know, when you have to dig a little bit deeper and see how close they were, particularly that UConn game, right? That's the one that stands out. If Temple is able to win that game, they got to the 1-inch line with 1 second to go. You know, that nose of the football gets a little bit further ahead, and then they come out of that, and who knows what happens the rest of the way. Maybe they pull that win over East Carolina. I do think the schedule sets up a little bit favorably. This matchup, Tulane, really, really tough. But on the other side of that, you've got some winnable games. You've got UAB, FAU, I think 2 teams that Temple can hang with. And then you don't know what happens going into the last week of the season. So then you go back and you look and you say, oh, maybe 1 or 2 things break differently, and this is a team that's going to a bowl game and we all feel a lot better about it. So I think maybe a little bit better than the record indicates.
What do you think is on their kind of to-do list in order to kind of take that next step to go forward?
I think it's putting together all 3 phases of the game. I think we've seen enough Temple football this season where, you know, you've had a great defensive effort where the offense maybe wasn't there. East Carolina, kind of the opposite of that, where the offense really put them in good position early and the defense uncharacteristically gave up some big plays. I think hopefully this second bye week, I thought Temple took a leap forward out of their first bye week and probably played their best game of the season against Tulsa at home. Hopefully this second bye week, second time in 4 weeks to get a chance to rest, get healthy, get all 3 phases of the game clicking, maybe that can make the difference in the home stretch.
Okay, you're talking optimism. We like to hear it. So give us a little bit of hope. But beyond the wins, where is the optimism? And then what do you just like about this team in general?
I like the way that they have continued to fight hard. I think that you look at college football today with so many guys coming in and out of programs, the transfer portal, all of the factors that are kind of outside of the field of play. I think it's easy to get a team that is not playing together, not switched on. This team is playing really hard. Obviously, the mistakes have been there more than Coach Drayton would like to see and more than Temple wants, but I think they are still coming into these games. They are playing for 4 quarters. They're bought in. I think they're bought into what the coaching staff is trying to do. So that's where the optimism comes from. Obviously, you've got to get the right pieces in the right places. I think, like you said, figuring out that Evan Simon was their quarterback. Would it have been great for that to happen a few weeks sooner? Sure. But now, hopefully, he's got that time as the leader of the offense. They can start to click that way. And they've got some real playmakers on defense. DeJuan Black, who missed the first 4 games, he's been a game wrecker since he's come back. And hopefully just more time together is going to be what propels this team to a good closing stretch.
You talked about stuff that just goes off the field, all the distraction, whatnot, especially with NIL nowadays, just how would you think, or how would you assess where Temple is with that currently?
You know, it's hard to say because there's so much floating around. It's hard to really parse through what's real, what's not real, what this guy is putting on his Instagram or social media that he has. And, you know, I think it's really hard to say. I think the important thing is that Temple can't lose sight of what makes Temple Temple. It's a hard-nosed, it's a hard-working, gritty, blue-collar, all of those things that made the Temple team so successful in the latter part of the last decade under Matt Rule when they had those 2 10-win seasons. You know, it's that Temple tough, defense-first mentality that they are going to outwork you and play physical football. I think all the other stuff is great, NIL, whatever it's going to end up looking like, and it'll probably change 10 more times. But if you can get back to doing what Temple football does best, I think this program can be competitive in the league.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on. You can catch Kevin on the call for Temple versus Tulane this Saturday and every Wednesday at noon on Temple Talk with head coach Stan Drayton and some guests.
But now we are up against our last break of the show. When we return, we'll be taking a look at the current AAC standings. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. The participants of the AAC championship game are starting to shape up, along with other teams that are working towards bowl eligibility. Inside the Nest beat reporter Jackson Batchelor is live at the studio set to take us through the conference standings in the American. Hey, Jackson.
Well, guys, after Week 10, Army does remain in that top spot as they are 6-0. But in the number 2 spot, things have changed. Navy on Saturday was upset by Rice on the road, so now Tulane, the Owls' next opponent, takes that number 2 spot at 5-0. Now in the 4th spot, Memphis also was upset on the road by UTSA, so they're 3-2, but they have that 4th spot currently. Now when we go to spot 5, it's currently a 3-way tie as North Texas, East Carolina, and South Florida are all 500 in the conference. Now in 8th place is another 3-way tie as we have Charlotte, Rice, and UTSA all at 2-3. And in spot 11, it's our Owls at 1-3 in the conference. And then in the 12th spot, 2-way tie. It's Tulsa at 1-4 and UAB at 1-4 as well. And finally, in that last spot, we have FAU, who is yet to find a conference win this season. If the season ended today, Army and Tulane would face each other in the AAC championship game on December 6th. Even though Navy is still in the mix, they will need a big upset from one of the top 2 teams in order to earn back a top 2 spot. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Jackson Batchelor. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Jackson. You gave the current standings, and Hayden and I will share our predictions for our final standings. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that Army goes undefeated with an 8-0 record. The only teams in conference that they have left to play are Texas and UTSA, so I definitely see them coming out on top with Tulane right behind them. It's just going to be a good football month. I don't see Navy coming out with any wins, with any win to get back in that top 2 spot. Now, Hayden, what are you thinking?
Yeah, Sam, I agree with you with almost everything. I agree. I think that Army and Tulane are going to play in the AAC championship game. I think the biggest thing that me and you disagree on is where I'm going to see FAU. I think this is a team that's going to kind of bounce back at the end. It might be a little bold Bandel prediction time because I think that Florida Atlantic, although I think they're going to lose this week against East Carolina, but after that, I see them winning 3 consecutive games against Temple, Charlotte, and Tulsa. So that's my prediction.
You know, Hayden, we will see if that still reigns true next week, but we're out of time for this edition of Inside the Nest. Tune in next week while we break down Temple's matchup with Tulane and look ahead to FAU. Owls versus Owls.
I bet you the Owls are going to win.
Maybe.
I bet you that is true. So from everyone inside of TV Studio 3, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week.